Alrighty, so the subject of our video today is the Spyderco PM2. Is it still good in 2022? So overall, the Spyderco PM2 is a real staple of the EDC world as far as knives go. I would personally say it is in like the top 5 greatest production knives at this point. I mean, we've got some stuff out there. The Benchmade 940 would be up there, or Osborne. The Bug Out would definitely be up there. PM2 and Para 3, I think you could argue, as well as from Spyderco, maybe the Delica, Manix, Native 5, Lightweight, or just Native 5. Maybe the Chris Reeve Sabenza, although I don't know if that one's even as popular. And then I guess there's some budget stuff like the Ontario Rat might make the list. But I think the Spyderco PM2 definitely has a spot up there in the top 5 or top 10 everyday carry knives, folding production folders, I guess we could say. And for good reason, because it has a lot of things going for it. Although it has been out for a significant amount of time. I didn't look up when this design first came out, but I will drop that in post because it's been a little while. So I was kind of thinking, after I've had this knife for a while, we could talk about, like, is it still a good option in 2022? If you're looking to buy this knife now, should you get one, or is there maybe something else? Is it obsolete? So I'm going to talk about kind of a few of my thoughts about that. Just talking about the Spyderco PM2, you probably already have heard a good bit about this knife, just because PM2 in the knife community is like, everyone immediately knows what you're talking about. But I think it was the first or one of the first knives with the compression lock, this like reverse liner locky thing where the liner is sandwiched between the tang of the blade and the stop pin, which is just genius. It's got that classic Spyderco G10 steel liners and then premium steel combo that we know and we love. Let's talk about just kind of the features and how they've aged. First, kind of ergonomics, I think, is interesting. Overall, I think the ergonomics have aged very well, and there still are a lot of knives coming in at a similar price point. These used to go for, I don't know, 120, maybe even as low as $100, and with all of the price hikes, they're up to, I don't know, 160, 170 now, depending on what blade steel. Maybe down to 150 with S30V still. But anyway, ergonomics are still great. I think there are a few updates that could make this knife more current. Contour G10, like we're seeing on like the Spyderco Shaman. And honestly, other than that, I mean, it's definitely not a neutral grip, but still fantastic in the choked back or choked forward positions. Materials, they keep upgrading the blade steel on this, so even that is not obsolete now with sprint runs. And right now, I got this one in S45 VN, and that seems to be the most recent sort of Spyderco general production steel. I've seen this drop recently in like Crewwear and Micarta, and it used to be S30V for a long time, but now we're kind of moving forward a little bit. A lot of companies are moving to S45 VN, and some, I think, to like MagnaCut. We're seeing a lot of 20CV, that kind of thing. But anyway, as far as materials, none of these are like outdated. And finishing, still the best jimping ever. Still, I've not found a single knife with comparable jimping, as far as like giving you tons of grip but not being aggressive on your fingers in any kind of bad way. The pocket clip, how is that aged? This is not the stock clip on there. I don't have a stock clip out, so I'm just not gonna worry about it. But stock clip is still garbage. It's so shallow carry. Better than the Para 3. Better than the mounting position. Do I have? Oh, my Para 3's in my pocket. I was like, where is it? Still better because it's like more next to the lanyard hole, but still kind of garbage. So that's like one of your downsides. But I still see knives with worse mounting positions for the pocket clip and worse stock pocket clips. One thing I have noticed lately is the Lynch clip that most people are going to buy to replace the standard clip is kind of more flimsy than the standard clip. And mine has loosened up a lot, which is fine because it's kind of it's easier to get in and out of the pocket, but the retention is not as great as I would like. I would like to see kind of a thicker clip. I mean, ideal, like perfect for me would be milled titanium deep carry pocket clip. That's as good as it gets for me. Or the wire clip is up there, like a nice thick wire clip. But yeah, it's okay because you can still modify this. The action is still damn good. You're not gonna find what makes this series so good is you get the Spyderco opening hole, which is a great deployment mechanism, and you get the best lock and action combination. And by that I mean you get the compression lock, which there's not much out there that's as strong or stronger than the compression lock. Only really like back locks, triad lock. There's a couple that are stronger, but those all have worse action. Action is only comparable with like better than Axis lock for deployment, and better than comparable with liner locks, but it's way easier to close. So you just get a lot of pros with it. One of the other things I thought I would talk about is like, are there new knives coming out that are a better option to pick up than the Spyderco PM2? Some kind of notable ones. The Spyderco Shaman, I think, is an example of like the Spyderco line cannibalizing itself, which is kind of interesting, because a lot of the competition for this knife is coming from Spyderco, and I think the Shaman presents a few things over the PM2 where it could be more desirable. It is more expensive at this point, even though I don't think it probably costs them much more to manufacture it. You're getting the Contour G10, which is nice, as opposed to the pretty flat G10. You're also getting better ergonomics in that there's no ramp for the thumb hole, so choking up is more comfortable because you don't get this annoying problem of your thumb sitting on the highest point of the blade, which is just not great for like, it's just not a good position. So you get a more comfortable front and back position, but this definitely still has the advantage over the Shaman of closing, because the nub on the Shaman still hits your finger, and it's the most annoying thing because you can't close it properly. I just handled it at Blade Show, and it's annoying. I would only buy the uncoated version of the Shaman if I bought it and just grind the nub off because it's that annoying. But yeah, so there is kind of some competition there, but definitely hasn't surpassed the PM2, making the PM2 obsolete. Another example would be the Spyderco Yojimbo. I think that one's pretty interesting because you get a nice compression lock, a lot of the same setup, except it's like a pointy Warncliffe. And I think you have some of the similar downsides of like having a more fragile tip. But then I think the Yojimbo is just a little bit better EDC size for most people. Although it's probably taller, I think. I don't know. The Yojimbo is an interesting option, but I think still for someone who wants some belly to their blade, uh, the PM2 is a great option. Spyderco Pair 3, I I mean it's I think it's a better size for most people, but uh, like overall size, but the ergonomics are not going to be better for people with large hands. So yeah, I don't think the Pair 3 is putting the PM2 out of business. Other ones that I wrote down, I mean, we have stuff like the Smock. If they could make a version of this with a button compression lock, that would be like awesome, but it's not really possible the way they have things configured. There are also some other interesting locking mechanisms that have come out, like the Shark lock on the Dimco 20.5, I think, is the one that has the new Shark lock and all that. Um, but nothing has really surpassed the compression lock right now. Yeah, so are there any other knives that I would buy? Like right now, knowing what I know, are there knives that I would buy before the PM2 just for general, like all around? Do I think there are better options? Not really. Still, I think the PM2 holds up. Um, I would maybe consider the Shaman before it, but you have the annoying nub issue and just general availability for those. You're having to pay way more than the knife is worth. Um, I would consider the Ojimbo as well, but I don't think it really is like better. Yeah, I don't think there are really better options. We're seeing some really interesting stuff from like um, and other just other companies, Benchmade, but like I don't think there's anything like at this price point that's also Golden Colorado, made in the USA. Uh, yeah, it just still can't be beat. Uh, I sound like I'm fanboying, but like I mean that's just how it is right now. Um, let's see. Okay. One other thought before wrapping up. So they just announced a new military model. Okay, so as if the naming system weren't confusing enough for the military and paramilitary line, um, this is the paramilitary 2. This is the para 3, not the paramilitary 3, which I have said it wrong 100 times because it's confusing. The other one is just the military. There's no para in it at all. But they've come out with a military 2. And that one now has the compression lock, which is interesting because then it's like, okay, if you've got a small one, a medium, and a large one, what should you do? Like, if you want to get into the sort of military, paramilitary series, maybe you should just buy like a Para 3 lightweight and a military. So then you have your like small, everyday, pocket friendly option that's lightweight and not made to be like beat on as quite as much. It can still take most of the abuse that the others can. And then you get your like military for longer cutting tasks, I guess, where you want more blade and don't care about it fitting in your pocket as well. But then there's the question of like, maybe the PM2 is just having one of those is better than having both of the others. I don't know. I honestly, this is really stupid because these are so similar in size. But for me, right between these sizes would be perfect. Like a PM 2.5, Para 2. Para meh, just like halfway between para and paramilitary. That would be like ideal. And lightweight would be nice. I would take like maybe not full steel liner. I don't know. I do kind of like okay, but anyway. So there are other options. I just thought it was interesting that we've got now like a larger one with compression lock and stuff. But honestly, this is as large as I would like to go with a folder that I'm going to be carrying every day. So I think it has a nice position there. Um, although it does have problems of like blade to handle ratio, and I don't know. Anyway, last thought of something that I wanted to kind of talk about is when will the PM2 be obsolete? When is this style going to not be like worth having anymore? Because there are ways that this knife could improve, and if the knife market improves all of those areas, it will put this knife out of business. And I think they're improvements that are within our grasp at the moment. Okay, so like the perfect Spyderco knife in this configuration for me would be if you got something kind of in the range of these sizes, in that kind of probably closer to the size of the Pair 3, but it had native ergonomics. So you didn't have the sort of ramp here where it was more comfortable in the choked up position. So you have like a comfortable choked up position and a comfortable choked back position. I would like just go ahead and round this out so you can fit your fingers comfortably on the back. Anyway, this size, native ergos or closer to the native ergos, contour G10 like the Shaman, compression lock. If you had all of those things plus either like a deep carry wire clip that was prioritized over the lanyard hole, or even just like a well placed deep carry clip, doesn't really matter material. If you had all of those things fixed, I think it would put the PM2 out of business. I think it wouldn't necessarily be smart for Spyderco to make a knife like that, because if you made a more regular size Shaman, like between, because the little native, they have kind of a smaller version, but that's smaller than most people want for everyday carry, and then the Shaman is bigger than most people want. You have the native in between, but it's a backlock, and people don't want a backlock; they want a compression lock. So if you had something sort of Shaman-esque without the nub problem in the compression lock, that would be like the ideal model. And it would have very few flaws as far as like the technology we have right now for folding knives. But the problem is it would put like, it would cannibalize the entire Spyderco line. So I don't think they would do that, even if they realized like, well, I don't know. It could be a move, because they could put a lot of other knife manufacturers out of business if they sold something that were just superior to literally all the other knives on the market. But you'd put the Pair 3 out of business, the PM2 out of business. You'd put the native, the Shaman. I mean, I guess the Shaman would be like a larger version. Like you could have size variation, but you wouldn't have any need for the Sage, the Chaparral. If you just had like your Shaman, your regular size Shaman that isn't like an XL, and then your little native as kind of the mini Shaman. Yeah, it would be just ideal. So I think if Spyderco ever went that direction, and the other thing I forgot to mention, the upgrade would be to take the locking mechanism from this guy. If you could find a way to make the button compression lock work in the para style ergonomics, it would be like incredible. And I think there are ways that you could do that. You could kind of bridge it over the back to where the blade could still fit in without the annoying cutout here. I think there are ways that it could happen. But yeah, add that to the list of features of the perfect Spyderco knife that doesn't exist, and you would have an unstoppable force. So anyway, until that knife comes out, I think the PM2 remains a solid option for someone looking for a good EDC knife in 2022. I think it's definitely on the larger side. I'd prefer the Para 3 in my pocket just because I don't have enough cutting tasks for the what half inch of blade to matter that much, like for it to be worth carrying that little bit of extra length. Um, yeah, so this size is a little better for me, but if you want kind of a larger option and a more like medium sized option, or maybe you're even the type of person who likes to carry two knives and you want your like big main knife and then you want your like little fifth pocket carry knife, the PM2 is still an unrivaled option, which is impressive after how long it's been out. So, yeah, those are my kind of general thoughts on the PM2 in 2022. I think you still can't go wrong, even as expensive as it has gotten. I think for an American made folding knife with the materials and the design, I think it's unrivaled. Uh, so, yeah, let me know if you guys agree, disagree, if you have any additional thoughts about when this will be obsolete, what the perfect Spyderco would be. Yeah, just let me know. Cool. Thanks for watching. See ya. Oh, and that reminds me of one more thing. That's kind of why my knife collection hasn't grown that much, because I have some of the best Spyderco designs right now. And there just isn't really that much better out there for the price point of diminishing returns. And I think this is around that price point of $150, $200, where from there on it's just getting fancier and it's not really getting better quality. Um, I have some great options for that. So right now my collection just isn't really growing because I don't think they're, um, I don't know, there's not incentive enough like for me to buy other knives because they're that much better than what I'm already carrying. I mean, they're definitely cool knives and ones that I'm tempted to buy, but it's more like, oh, I'd like to review that front flipper because it's a different mechanism than what I currently use, or I'd like to, I don't know, try out some Wii knives since they're would have been or like Civivi, the budget options interest me. But anyway, uh, yeah, that's part of the reason my collection hasn't really grown and I haven't reviewed other knives is because I just like I feel like I have some of the most compelling options on the table as far as all around folding users. Um, but yeah, it's just one more thought I wanted to throw in there.